When Boncuklu Tarla, Karahan Tepe, and Göbekli Tepe were discovered, they completely changed the narrative of mainstream archaeology. Many people believed these structures were the work of a lost ancient advanced civilization, or that an advanced group somehow transferred knowledge to the people of Tas Stepler. But what if this wasn't some mysterious vanished civilization? What if it was simply a highly advanced group of people, a group that already possessed knowledge of architecture, geometry, engineering, astronomy, and construction far beyond what we normally associate with hunter gatherers? And if an advanced group really built these structures, then there must have been a much bigger reason behind it. Now, mainstream archaeology rejects these kinds of theories. According to archaeologists, these structures were the result of a gradual learning process, thousands of years of slow cultural evolution, eventually leading to monuments like Göbekli Tepe and Karahan Tepe. But was there really any learning curve? I don't think so. And the evidence we are about to look at may explain why. In 2012, Boncuklu Tarla was discovered. Boncuklu Tarla was a residential settlement that existed 12,000 years ago with a sewage and wastewater drainage system. Until now, mainstream archaeology believed systems like this only began appearing during much later civilizations and the Bronze Age, nearly 6,000 to 7,000 years after Boncuklu Tarla. But Boncuklu Tarla challenged that entire timeline, and that's not even the most surprising part. The drainage channels were connected directly to the public structures of the settlement, which means the builders had already planned wastewater management before the site was fully constructed. This wasn't random construction. The settlement followed a coordinated layout from the beginning. Now, here's where things start showing a different picture. We have older sites in the region, like Tel Caramel, estimated to be thousands of years older than Boncuklu Tarla, and even older sites like Ohalo, dating back nearly 11,000 years before Boncuklu Tarla. But none of these sites or any other known site in the surrounding region from those periods show planned sewage systems like this. Not even early experimental versions. So, where is the gradual learning evolution? It seems that all of a sudden, Boncuklu Tarla appeared with a planned sewage and wastewater management system already integrated into the settlement. Now, this raises a serious question. How did the builders of Boncuklu Tarla suddenly acquire the knowledge, geometry, and planning required to build something this advanced? But the strangest discovery at Boncuklu Tarla is something else. One of the oldest large temple structures at the site contained massive external stone supports called buttresses. In modern architecture, buttresses are usually used to support extremely heavy roofs and stop walls from collapsing outward. And for large heavy structures, buttresses actually make sense. But here's the strange part. The newer and much smaller versions of these structures still contained the same buttresses, even though the lightweight roofs no longer physically required them. Why would ancient builders keep using massive structural supports on smaller buildings that didn't even need them? Unless the younger generations no longer fully understood the original science behind the structure and simply continued copying an older architectural system created by a far more advanced group. The site became known as Boncuklu Tarla, meaning field of beads, because excavators uncovered more than 100,000 carefully manufactured beads and ornaments, not rough stones, but precisely shaped ornaments made from rare materials like serpentine and chlorite, which means these people were not simply surviving. They were already working with specialized craftsmanship, aesthetics, symbolism, material selection, and long distance resource acquisition 12,000 years ago. Approx 600 to 800 years after Bengkulu Tarla, another site was constructed in the region. Today it is known as Karahan Tepe. And this site showed that these people, or perhaps an ancient advanced group connected to them, may have possessed astronomical knowledge far beyond what we ever imagined for 11,000 years ago. After carefully looking at the evidence found at Karahan Tepe, it raises serious questions about the idea that this knowledge developed slowly and independently over time. One of the most controversial studies was published in the peer-reviewed journal Time and Mind, the Journal of Archaeology, Consciousness and Culture. The research focused on the mathematical layouts, pillar arrangements found across the Stapler sites. And according to structural analysis done by Dr. Martin Sweatman, the layout of structure AB, especially its 11-pillar and central head arrangement, may function as a sophisticated lunisolar calendar system. In simple language, the chamber may have been designed to track long-term solar and lunar cycles. If this interpretation is correct, then the builders were not randomly placing stones. They were organizing architecture according to astronomical calculations 11,000 years ago. And then another discovery made the mystery even deeper. When researchers recreated the ancient sky using astronomical software, they found that around 11,000 years ago, sunlight during the winter solstice would have entered structure AB and illuminated the face of the central human statue almost perfectly. But because of Earth's axial wobble, also known as the precession of the equinoxes, the sun no longer hits the exact same point today. Now, the sunlight falls slightly to the side of the face instead, which means this alignment was not random. The chamber appears to have been intentionally positioned according to the sky of that specific era. But here's the bigger problem with the idea of gradual evolution. Aside from Karahan Tepe, almost no earlier site in the region show astronomical structures or alignments of this sophistication. The only comparable example is Göbekli Tepe, but that site was being built nearly at the same time of Karahan Tepe. So if astronomical knowledge slowly evolved over time, then where are the simpler experimental stages? Where are the basic astronomical structures that gradually led to something this precise? I know skeptics will say those sites haven't been discovered yet. And yes, that is possible. But when we look at how science and architecture evolve in human history, newer structures usually become more advanced than older ones. What we build today is far more sophisticated than what we built 100 years ago. But at Karahan Tepe, the pattern appears completely reversed. The oldest structure at the site seemed to be the most sophisticated. The ritual chamber, known as Structure AB, appears far more advanced than the younger structures built later. Structure AB contained massive T-shaped pillars, highly detailed human sculptures, and intricate carvings. But the younger structures built afterward were far simpler: smaller rooms, simpler layouts, less detailed construction, and mostly ordinary residential spaces. This looks less like evolution and more like devolution. Structure AB wasn't simply built using stacked stone blocks, it was carved directly into the bedrock itself, which is far more difficult than constructing ordinary walls. If you place a wall incorrectly, you can break it and rebuild it. But when you carve directly into bedrock, there is almost zero room for mistakes. One wrong cut can damage the entire structure permanently. The carvings found inside structure AB reveal another level of sophistication. Archaeologists discovered a protruding human head carved directly out from the wall itself, three-dimensional animal carvings, and human statues showing detailed ribs, fingers, and facial features. These were not rough survival markings scratched onto stone. They were carefully shaped three-dimensional sculptures carved with precision. But the discoveries didn't stop there. Researchers also performed X-ray fluorescence analysis known as XRF spectrometry on the obsidian tools and stone cutting fragments found at the site. The goal was to identify where the volcanic glass used by the builders originally came from, and the results revealed something extraordinary. The obsidian used at Karahan Tepe did not come from one local source. It came from multiple distant volcanic regions spread across hundreds of kilometers. In simple language, the builders of Karahan Tepe were connected to massive long-distance supply networks stretching between 250 and 500 kilometers. But it may also suggest something even more important. These people may have understood the quality and properties of the materials they were using, because why would ancient builders travel hundreds of kilometers for obsidian? While Karahan Tepe was still being constructed, its sister site, Göbekli Tepe, was also being built in the same region at nearly the same time. And when this site was excavated, it created even more mysteries and controversies surrounding the older Taz-Tepler sites. There are two discoveries at Göbekli Tepe that caught my attention and made me dig deeper into the site. The first one is the massive T-shaped pillars. There are hundreds of these pillars across the site, many containing carvings of hands, belts, and body-like features, almost as if the pillars themselves were representing human forms. Archaeologists say these pillars may have supported the roofs of the structures, and that could be true. But the carvings on them may also suggest a deeper symbolic meaning. One of the most controversial discoveries connected to Göbekli Tepe is Pillar 43, also known as the Vulture Stone. According to research published by Dr. Martin Sweatman, the animal carvings on Pillar 43 may not be random animals at all. The study suggests the symbols could represent constellations and astronomical markers connected to the Younger Dryas event around 10,950 BCE. According to this interpretation, the pillar may function almost like a stone timestamp, recording a catastrophic cosmic event. Mainstream archaeologists reject this interpretation and consider it highly controversial. Another carving that caught my attention was on Pillar 18. Archaeologists usually interpret the carving as simple loincloth or symbolic garment. But if you examine it carefully, the arrow-like patterns and diamond-shaped design almost resemble a stream moving across the sky, and directly beneath that carving is an animal figure. What makes this interesting is that 11,000 years ago, the Taurid meteor stream appeared from the direction of Taurus constellation, while Aries constellation sat slightly lower and westward from it in the sky. So if the animal represents a ram, it may symbolically point toward Aries, and if it represents a bull instead, then it could directly reference Taurus itself. which means the entire carving may potentially describe a sky event connected to the torrid meteor stream and Younger Dryas catastrophe. Now, do we have definitive proof that this is exactly what the builders intended? No. But if these interpretations are even partially correct, then it would mean the builders of Göbekli Tepe were preserving astronomical events, celestial observations, and possibly catastrophic memories in stone more than 11,000 years ago. And this is where the bigger pattern starts appearing again. Boncuklu Tarla introduced planned infrastructure and coordinated settlement design. Karahan Tepe introduced astronomical alignment, bedrock carving, and mathematically organized ritual chambers. And then Göbekli Tepe appeared with massive monumental construction, symbolic T-shaped pillars, and possible astronomical encoding carved directly into stone. What if an advanced group of people moved through this region during the Younger Dryas period? First building Boncuklu Tarla as a planned residential settlement, then constructing the sophisticated ritual chambers of Karahan Tepe, and finally, creating the massive monumental structures of Göbekli Tepe. Because if this knowledge evolved gradually and locally, then why do T-shaped pillars suddenly appear only after Boncuklu Tarla? Why do sophisticated astronomical interpretations suddenly appear at Karahan Tepe and Göbekli Tepe when no other earlier sites in the region had anything like this? Now, if these astronomical interpretations connected to the Younger Dryas are actually true, then why were these ancient people recording those events on stone? To be honest, I don't know. But one thing is very strange. When you look at the timeline, during the Younger Dryas period, Boncuklu Tarla was already being constructed, and near the end of the Younger Dryas, Karahan Tepe and Göbekli Tepe were also being built. Just imagine that for a moment. Around 11,000 years ago, while sudden climate shifts and meteor events were affecting the world, these people were planning settlements, transporting massive stones, and constructing monumental structures. Isn't that strange? Maybe the clues are scattered across other ancient sites around the world. So in the next video, I'm going to explore structures from other parts of the ancient world and see whether similar patterns, symbols, and astronomical alignments or construction knowledge appear there as well.